The body is animated by more than blood and breath. Subtle traditions around the world recognize an invisible architecture beneath the skin, what Indian yogis call the pranic body. Chinese medicine refers to as the chi field, and modern esotericists call the etheric layer. These traditions differ in language, but they agree on one truth. This field can be damaged, and alcohol is one of its most consistent aggressors. In Ayurveda, alcohol is considered tamasic, dulling, heavy, and degenerative. According to the Charaka Samhita, one of Ayurveda's foundational texts, alcohol clouds the mind, depletes ojas or vital essence, and disrupts digestion and memory. But this damage extends far beyond the physical. As ojas diminishes, so too does the integrity of the subtle body. Practitioners of pranic healing and clairvoyant diagnosis have long reported tears, darkened patches, and fragmentation in the aura of long-term drinkers. Barbara Ann Brennan, former NASA physicist and energy healer, describes in her clinical research, Hands of Light 1987, how alcohol disrupts the flow of energy through the chakras. She observed that alcohol weakens the auric field, particularly around the solar plexus and sacral chakras, leaving people energetically exposed to emotional manipulation and disembodiment. Taoist masters would say the same in their own way. When qi becomes stagnant and scattered by alcohol, the body loses its role as the temple of clarity, and the shen, or the spirit, flees. Rudolf Steiner, the Austrian philosopher and founder of anthroposophy, offered a detailed framework for understanding the human being as more than just a physical organism. According to his model, the human constitution is composed of 4 interrelated bodies: the physical body, the etheric body, or the life force, the astral body, or the seat of desires and emotions, and the I, or ego being, which gives rise to self-awareness and spiritual direction. In Steiner's lectures, particularly those on health, nutrition, and spiritual science, he identified alcohol as a major disruptive agent within the subtle system. His core view was that alcohol acts not only on the brain but directly on the human etheric and astral bodies, leading to fragmentation of spiritual coherence. In a lecture delivered on October 22, 1911, Steiner stated, "Alcohol works upon the human organism in such a way that the astral body is loosened. Through this, the etheric body becomes more strongly bound to the physical body and thereby loses its proper freedom. This loosening of the astral body, in his framework, prevents the higher self from engaging clearly with life. The person may feel emotionally intensified or liberated under the influence of alcohol. But according to Steiner, this is due to the unmooring of the astral body from moral and spiritual guidance. He also taught that this interference leads to a long-term numbing of spiritual sensitivity. In various lectures, Steiner associated alcohol consumption with a growing disconnection from one's inner voice, from moral intuition, and from the ability to perceive spiritual realities. He warned that habitual drinking contributes to a state of consciousness in which materialism becomes dominant, not only culturally but internally. This concern extended to Steiner's view on reincarnation and karmic development. In lectures from Nutrition and Health, he suggested that alcohol consumption can interfere with the proper imprinting of spiritual lessons between lifetimes. While this idea remains specific to his cosmology, it illustrates the seriousness with which he regarded alcohol, not merely as a physical substance, but as a force affecting one's deeper development. Steiner did not frame his teachings in terms of moral condemnation. He did not call for a legal prohibition or cultural purging of alcohol. Rather, he emphasized that those walking a spiritual path should aim for clarity and presence. In his vision, the path of human development requires a balance between will, thought, and feeling, and substances that disrupt this balance make that work more difficult. For Steiner, alcohol was not inherently evil. Rather, it was a strong influence, one that diminished the individual's capacity to remain fully integrated, body, soul, and spirit. And for a person aspiring to higher knowledge, self-mastery, or inner freedom, that cost was too high. Dr. Richard Gerber, a practicing physician and author of the influential book Vibrational Medicine, 1988, was one of the first in modern medicine to articulate how energetic systems interface with physical health. His work synthesized conventional anatomy with concepts drawn from Eastern traditions, subtle energy healing, and quantum theory. Gerber proposed that the human being is composed of multiple interpenetrating layers: the dense physical body, the etheric or vital body, the emotional body, the mental body, and higher spiritual fields. Health, in his model, depends on the integrity and resonance among all these levels. Disease, whether physical or psychological, often begins with disruptions in the energetic template before symptoms appear in the physical form. Regarding alcohol, Gerber asserted that it disrupts the energetic field significantly. He described alcohol as a vibrational disorganizer, a substance that alters the frequency patterns within the aura. According to his observations, alcohol consumption creates holes or distortions, especially around the solar plexus, heart, and head regions, weakening the person's natural energy boundary. These auric breaches, he explained, can lead to increased emotional volatility, confusion, and vulnerability to external energies. He noted that energy healers and clairvoyants often reported dense, cloud-like disturbances around habitual drinkers. These disturbances were typically found around the third chakra, associated with will and personal power, and the sixth chakra, associated with perception and clarity. Dr. Gerber also addressed alcohol's role in addiction, emphasizing that chronic energetic distortion weakens both the etheric immune system and the individual's ability to regulate compulsive tendencies. He suggested that habitual alcohol use impairs the link between the physical body and the higher self, creating a gap through which compulsive thought forms and unprocessed emotional content can repeat and intensify. His core question was pragmatic. Is what you are consuming reinforcing your energetic coherence, or is it fragmenting your field? From that bliss, all beings are born. By that bliss they live, into that bliss they return. From the Taittiriya Upanishad. You know that moment when you discover a spring of pure water after years of drinking from plastic bottles? The ancient yogis found something similar inside their own bodies. They called it Amrit, or the deathless essence, honey that forms in stillness, moonlight that pools in your spine when you sit quietly enough. Centuries before humans invented happy hour, meditators were finding their way to altered states through breath and silence. The high they discovered left them clear-headed in the morning without any regrets pooling in their stomach. The old texts like the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the Shiva Samhita, the Gherand Samhita all point to the same territory, a spot at the back of your skull where something sweet begins. Modern anatomy might call this region near the pineal gland. When you read through accounts from different practitioners, a curious thing happens. They keep describing the same sensations, even though they've never met each other. There's this coolness that starts spreading through the throat, almost like you've swallowed mint tea, but without actually drinking anything. The taste itself gets compared to honey a lot, though some say it's more like very pure, slightly sweet water that seems to come from nowhere. What really catches people off guard is how clear their thinking becomes afterward, as if someone just cleaned a window they'd been looking through their whole life. Khechdi mudra sounds weird when you first hear about it. You're basically supposed to curl your tongue backward until it touches the soft part of your upper palate, then hold it there while meditating. Practitioners report that this simple gesture, held during meditation, triggers cascades of subtle sensation. Some describe their whole endocrine system shifting. like an orchestra finding its tune after years of discord. Just a note, do not practice this mudra without proper guidance or a sattvic lifestyle. It is an advanced mudra that requires a guru. Yoga Nidra creates this odd situation where your body falls completely asleep, but somehow your mind stays awake and aware, just observing everything. It's hard to explain unless you've done it, but people come out of these sessions feeling inexplicably happy, and they can't quite figure out why, since all they did was lie there for 45 minutes following someone's voice. Then there's Brahmari, the humming bee breath, where you make this humming sound that vibrates through your entire skull. The sensation is intense, but not unpleasant. It's like giving your brain a massage from the inside, hitting all those spots you didn't know existed. After a few minutes, your whole head feels different, almost buzzing with a kind of pleasant aliveness. Scientists studying veteran meditators keep finding surprises in their brain chemistry. Elevated DHEA, or the vitality hormone, floods of melatonin at odd hours, traces of naturally produced DMT, that molecule of visions. The brain, it turns out, runs its own pharmaceutical lab when you know which buttons to press. The yogis lacked our instruments, but possessed something else. Centuries of careful observation passed from teacher to student like precious seeds. They noticed how the body changes when you feed it breath instead of stimulants, when you court silence instead of sensation. Alcohol promises to gather you up, then scatters you across the night. Amrit works differently. Each meditation adds another drop to an inner reservoir. Your nervous system learns to hold itself differently, like a musician discovering they've been gripping their instrument too tightly for years. In Ayurvedic thinking, this inner nectar feeds what they call ojas, or your fundamental vitality. Think of ojas as the cream that rises when your whole system settles. While external intoxicants skim this cream away, leaving you hollow, the practices that awaken Amrit help it accumulate. Most of us spend our evenings trying to find that sweet spot where everything feels okay for a while, where the edges of the day finally soften and we can breathe again. The yogis discovered that this exact feeling already exists in the small pause right after you exhale and right before you need to inhale again. That tiny moment of perfect suspension when nothing needs to happen. The irony is that the world becomes manageable precisely when you give up trying to manage it, when you finally let it be exactly what it is. Paramahansa Yoganand spent decades in meditation and wrote extensively about experiencing what he called divine nectar flowing from brain to spine during his deepest practices. He insisted that once you taste this inner sweetness, everything else feels like a poor substitute. And given how much time he devoted to exploring these states, his observations carry real weight. The legendary Soma that ancient texts describe might be lost forever, but Amrit is different. It's renewable, forming fresh whenever you remember how to sink into your own stillness. We spend so much time looking everywhere else for what's been sitting inside us all along, accumulating drop by drop in all those quiet moments we usually rush past. Tonight, when you feel that familiar itch for something to take the edge off, there's another option worth trying. Instead of reaching for the usual remedies, you could experiment with sitting still and letting your attention drift inward, the way your eyes naturally want to close when you're truly tired. Truth seekers discovered something remarkable through this simple practice. The most satisfying nectar never comes from outside. It bubbles up from within when breath and awareness find their rhythm together, processed through the remarkable chemistry of your own nervous system that's been waiting to show you what it can do. We tend to get addiction wrong, thinking it's all about chasing pleasure, when really it's about running from something else. Most people don't reach for the bottle because they love the taste or even the buzz. They reach for it because sitting still means feeling things they'd rather not feel, remembering things they've worked hard to keep at bay. Alcohol becomes less of a pleasure and more of a shield, a way to stay perpetually one step ahead of whatever's trying to catch up. The yogis knew that the real issue wasn't the substance itself, but the inability to be present with discomfort, to let difficult emotions move through without trying to escape. Yogic psychology has this concept called vairagya, which gets translated as dispassion, but means something more nuanced than that. It's about learning to watch your own mind without getting swept away by every thought and craving that passes through. When you practice Vairagya meditation, something interesting happens. You start seeing your cravings as temporary weather systems rather than permanent features of your landscape. A storm rolls in. Maybe it gets intense, lightning and thunder and all that drama, but you just watch it pass. You don't try to stop it. You don't run from it. You just let it do its thing while you stay steady. The entire goal is to not let wanting own you anymore. You can feel the pull toward the drink, acknowledge it fully, and then choose something else without a massive internal battle. Here's what all these practices are really pointing toward. You're not broken and needing to be fixed. You're not bad and trying to become good. Underneath all the patterns and coping mechanisms and habits that have built up over the years, there's something in you that's always been whole. The addiction covered it up, made you forget it was there, but it never actually went anywhere. Every practice, every herb, every moment of meditation is just helping you remember what you've always been. You don't have to add anything new to yourself, but clear away what's blocking your natural state. That's why lasting recovery feels less like an achievement and more like a homecoming. You're not becoming someone different. You're returning to who you were before you forgot.
Mono chalo nijo niketane. Mono chalo nijo